welcome back to A Soul in the Multiverse, and today we are going to be looking at the Divine Collective. In fact, what I should be doing first is to check if I can. So I'm using the emotion code and I'm using the 2 circle linked fingers to be able to double check. So am I allowed to clear for the collective today? Yes. Am I here to clear for the whole collective? No. Am I here to clear for the Divine Feminine? Yes. Am I here to clear for the Divine Masculine? Yes. Do I need to do them separately? Yes. Brilliant. So let us first of all have a look at the Divine Feminine. Okay then, so let's triple check. Am I allowed to do a emotion code clearing for the Divine Feminine Collective on Wednesday the 4th of October 2013? And I've got a positive lock, which is a yes. Can I check, is there any blockages in relation to the Divine Feminine Collective in A1? No. A2? Yes. Anxiety? Yes. Despair? Yes. Disgust? No. Nervousness? No. Worry? Yes. Is there any blockages in A3 for the Divine Feminine Collective? No. A4? Yes. Anger? No. Bitterness? No. Guilt? No. Hatred? No. Resentment? Yes. Is there any blockages in A5 for the Divine Feminine Collective? Yes. Blaming? No. Dread? No. Fear? No. Horror? No. Peeved? Yes. Is there any blockages in relation to the Divine Feminine in relation to A6? No. That's interesting. The last round I've done, they were really focused on the A6 and B6 ones. I will upload those videos as well, just for reference point, but it was very much related around the sexual organs. I don't know if it was because it was at the height of summer, and everyone might have been feeling the summer loving vibes a little bit more, but let's carry on. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, is there any blockages in B1? Yes. Everton received heartache? No. No. Insecurity? No. Overjoy? No. Vulnerability? Yes. Is there any blockages in relation to B2? No. B3? Yes. Confusion? No. Defensiveness? No. Grief? Yes. Self-abuse? Yes. Stubbornness? Yes. Is there any blockages in relation to A4? No. Is there any blockages in relation to B4? No. B5? No. B6? Yes. Pride? Shame? Pride? No. Shame? Yes. Shock? Yes. Unworthy? No. Worthlessness? No. That's really good, because unworthy and worthlessness came out quite a lot, I think, in all of my previous ones. And if it wasn't in the ones that I had recorded, it would have been in ones that I had done prior to that. And I know personally I have really worked through issues of feeling unworthy and worthlessness. Unfortunately, through this journey, I think due to programming, you think it's when you meet the most perfect one for you, it's going to be beautifully wonderful, and it is for a time. But then it brings up all these questions about you, and then when there is that, although you are never separated, I will do a separate video about twin flames and my learnings on them. I've done a real deep dive the past 6 weeks, which has got me to a much better headspace about it all. But knowing that you've met your other incarnation and they don't see the value in you, it makes you question everything. I questioned everything about myself, my value as a friend, potential partner, potential naughty buddy, potential work, how I worked. You know, every single layer of my being got questioned. He didn't question it directly, it's not like that, but through his energetic reactions, being an empath, it made me question my worth, which I think you all do need to do that. It's, you know, this journey is a very difficult journey. Yes, you do understand everything around you, but you also learn about yourself and get to your true self. So whilst some of the things that have happened have made me question my worth, I realised my worth at the end of it. There may have been a few weeks, which is why I haven't been around and been a little bit more quiet, but I'm so pleased to see that that isn't part of the collective. So I really, really hope that us beautiful, wonderful, divine feminines have all perfectly been working on this. And 444 just came across on my timestamp, which is a beautiful resonating number for myself, and I hope it resonates for someone out there. For those that are on the twin flames, you know, there are a lot of myths and facts out there. One of them is, you know, there's only 144,000 of us. Each of us has a twin flame. I'm sure there's one or two of us that might even have multiple, and if you do, good luck to you on this journey. But let's go and do the clearing. This is the exciting part, because where we do the clearing, we also get the channeling through, which is where we can see where these areas may be affecting you. And obviously it'll be really lovely to see if there's any resonation there. So we are down to the clearing. So the first, sorry, there's a lot of noise in my videos today. Obviously in the twin flame world, you know that if you hear a motorbikes, it's usually a sign of speed and of messages forthcoming. So today, the first one that we're going to be looking at is anxiety. I can be honest, I've been very fortunate with my journey in the fact that I have managed to have quite a quiet head, which means that I don't have so many intrusive thoughts as much now, which makes me worry about the past or the future. So with anxiety is much more a fear of the future. This journey can turn your whole life all the way around. Things that previously meant the world to you no longer seem as important. Long-held beliefs are dismantled in seconds. And, you know, there is a fear of the future. It doesn't matter what part of the journey you're on, whether you're right at the beginning or right at the end, because you know that feeling that you have towards that other person, and the fear of knowing it might never happen, or it's not going to be as prevalent in your 3D space, can cause anxiety, a fear of the future. But what we need to do and what we need to remember is, you know, try as much as possible to stay in the now. Now, if you are struggling with like anxiety, which is a fear of future, or even depression, which is a fear of the past, because depression, you obviously spend your time worrying about what happened, and with anxiety, you're worried about what could happen. There's a wonderful trick. I can recommend it to everyone if you have an Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I'm only a few chapters in, but I have seen a lot of his teachings and a lot of videos about him. But reading his book really helps resonate, and it just reminds you that you are a conscious observer of these thoughts. These aren't your thoughts. So what are they? And then when you realise you're a conscious observer, it becomes really quite interesting. But there's also something for those of you that do have quite a busy head and would like some relief. Close your eyes and in your mind ask, I wonder what my next thought will be. I bet there was silence, wasn't there? Because you are consciously aware that you were following these thoughts. But anyway, anxiety, a fear of future, fear of whether they will not accept you. If you have been, you know, caused some upset, a fear that they may never accept your apology, or a fear they may never come back, a fear they may never realise their mistakes, a fear they may stay within lower vibrational energies, a fear that you might do exactly the same. Because I think this is one thing, we can't ever think that they are at a different level to us, because if they're running in what we see as a perceived term of running, then it could just be that we're running from something within ourselves that we need to heal first. Otherwise, there will not be that bliss between us. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release any issues of anxiety. And as always, I will double check. Does the Divine Feminine Collective have any blockages in relation to anxiety? No. So I've got a break there. So that's a no. So the next one is despair. I think I've kind of covered that with the anxiety, the despair of not knowing what's happening, the anxiety of it all. Then once the anxiety gets a hold and then you start to feel a bit more worried, despair can start coming in. And then time, I mean, I've never had time feel so weird. I can have a week that goes by in a blink of an eye, but I can also have an hour that feels like a day and a day that feels like a week, especially when we are not in as much communication. It's the strangest feeling in the world. I'm getting quite a lot of solace in speaking about it over these videos, and in fact, video journal to yourself if you're feeling low. Get it out of your system. There's not many that are going to be able to understand this. I think you awaken to a point, this gets triggered, and then you're left in a place where not many people understand. I have been lucky. One of my close contacts I never realised was a Divine Feminine, and then I messaged her privately and I was like, oh my God, are you and she was like, oh my God, I should have realised you were. And then that's when I found somebody, and we have some rather colourful conversations about the whole wonderful journey. So I do understand it's despairing, but go and find something that makes you feel less. Because I do understand, this spiritual awakening is lonely anyway, but throw a twin flame connection into it and nobody seems to understand, not with modern day terms of ghosting, ghostlighting and all that. Yes, they may fit into those terms, but we know that it's because they're in lower vibrations, just like your reactions are in lower vibrations, as opposed to being at the top of unconditional love, pure love and understanding. Obviously, unconditional love does not mean allow someone to continually take from you. It means have your boundaries in place and give what you are willing and able to give. But anyway, I'm starting to waffle, so let us get rid of this despair for the collective, shall we? So for the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release any issues of despair. Can I double check? Does the Divine Feminine Collective have any blockages in relation to the emotion of despair? No, perfect. We have cleared that one. So last one in that box. Again, have a look at the body parts that relate to here. Are you having issues in this area? If you are and are resonating with the anxiety, with the despair, and now we're looking at worry, I mean, they all pretty much interlink. There's just so much worry, isn't there? There's worry, am I losing my mind? Have I taken breadcrumbs from the universe and accidentally they were red flags, I turned green? That there's a lot of this, but I think sometimes when you aren't getting signs that you are still on that right path, it's sometimes a time where you're called into faith. And my faith has been questioned many times on this journey, and I do understand I am getting stronger each time with my belief every time these questions are being rocked. So let's release worry for you all, because worry is just not a nice vibrational energy to be in. Let's release it. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release any issues in relation to worry. Let's do my double checking. Is there any blockages in relation to worry? No. Right, so we're going to move down to A4, where we had a blockage in resentment. This might be, blockage in resentment. I just had to change over my tapes, and I'll be honest, I can only do 10 minutes at a time when I'm doing these videos, which is really good because it helps you segment it out. But when I got to resentment, I was like, I've got a minute left. I'm not sure I'll quite get through it all. Resentment. I've had over the past few days a very overwhelming feeling of resentment, and as I said in my, I don't know if I said it in this video, but in my welcome video, I've been away for a little bit because there have been some rocks on my journey, bumps in my road, which have made me question whether I'm potentially going through another dark night of the soul. And, you know, along with an awakening that only happened 6-7 months ago, and being thrust on this twin flame journey, and so many other things to be contending with, both in this world and 4D and 5D and other dimensions, I've had a pretty interesting year. Now, I did have a moment where I felt I've been so grateful. Please, when I say this next sentence, do not judge me on this. I have been so thankful for this journey. I understand that I chose everything up until this point to get me to my awakening, and it worked. I also understand that I gave myself a choice, a fork in the crossroads. Sorry, had a little moment there. A fork in the crossroads where I had a choice between a normal life and an awakened life, and at that juncture I chose exactly what I wanted, which was an awakened life, and which is what I have continuously worked through with my readings of, you know, the Celestine Prophecy, Dr. David Hawkins, Drumfalo, Michidek, and the Secret of the Ancient Flower of Life, and so many philosophical teachers and spiritual gurus. Obviously, I don't take everything that everyone says, but I resonate, and it all matches to what makes sense to me. But sometimes I don't know if this is me, because this is just the feeling that I feel like I've been channeling, because like I said, I've been feeling a lot more, been given a bit of a break from doing these collective healings. I was doing them for a long time before I even put them onto YouTube, without anyone knowing about it on a daily basis. It just adds a lot more having to record it, be in the space to record it, then add it into video, then download it and do all that. So everything on top of everything made me go through that. But recently, and over the past few days, I've actually felt resentful of people that are unawakened. I don't know if anyone else feels like that, because, or if that's something that I'm picking up from the collective. I wanted to go back asleep for a bit. There was a very sad moment where I was feeling a lot of emotions overwhelm me, and I was like, come on, this isn't my emotions. I know this isn't mine. I've cleared everything. I've dealt with all mine. This is starting to get overwhelming. That's when I realised it was the collectives. And then I've just for the moment just was like, so much has happened in this 6 to 7 months. I couldn't have made it up. And I keep saying, like, every 6 months I'm different, and I am. And, you know, whilst it is so beautiful and it's what I want, there are moments where you're like, please, can I just get off this merry-go-round, and why can't I just be happy with a program of a family, and a program of this and a program of that, and why can't I just let my partner do the same cycles over and over again? Why can't I just go back for a bit? So there came a bit of resentment for normal people that weren't thrusting themselves onto this harder journey. I wonder if anyone else feels like that, because I'm not sure if it's mine, but I do understand it, and I did briefly wish it for a brief moment. Just let me forget about all of this. But I don't mean it. I know I don't. 444 on this new recording. Okay. 444 is quite a big number for me, so if it is for anyone else, I hope that resonates for you. So let's get rid of this resentment. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release any blockages in relation to resentment. Can I double check? Is there any blockages in relation to resentment for the Divine Feminine Collective? No, we have cleared that. Well done. We have cleared 4 blocked emotions so far. So now we're going to move into peeved. Obviously, as you can tell, this is an American system. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say that our version is we're feeling a bit pissed off. peeved with the world, peeved with the situation, peeved with whatever's just going on. So yeah, I get that. I think that comes quite closely with the resentment, doesn't it? And the anxiety, the despair, the worry, the I don't know which stage most people are at. I'm guessing most that will be looking at this could be in a separation phase or a unsure phase. So you could be feeling peeved with it all. The one thing that really annoyed me, but actually does make it better when you're in a calmer state of mind, is time isn't as we perceive it, and we aren't ever separate from our twin flame. We are one. We are just a new incarnation, another incarnation of ourselves here at the same time, to be each other's best friend, perfect lover, and all that. And but that perfection doesn't come without a need for growth. And whilst this world is so open for you to be whoever you want to be, it's also very limited. And I believe that we're a soul that comes here with amnesia, and they've literally put so many programs upon us for us to kind of keep away from spirituality. And even through the twin flame teachings that I've seen over the past 6-7 months, if I hadn't have ignored a good majority of the first 3-4 months of stuff that I've been watching on YouTube, and didn't get addicted to the tarot readings, the collective tarot readings, I might have been in a much better place about it. But obviously everything happens with time, right time, divine timing, and you'll understand when you get to the end why it had to be that way. But I do understand feeling peeved of the journey, peeved with the world, peeved with just life. Life's hard at the moment, you know. Things are expensive. People are all going through so many things. There's so many different planets in retrograde. So it's not just us that are going through things. You know, even people that aren't on this twin flame journey, the spiritual awakening, they're getting pushed to be spiritually awake. So just imagine, you know, if you're choosing to do this and finding it hard, just imagine having it thrust upon you. It must be a lot more difficult. So whilst you may be feeling peeved that your situation is not moving forwards, you know, that's one of the things that kind of got me through a lot of this. Look, I just want to hold your hand in this. I'm not saying I don't want to be with you. I'm not saying I want to be with you, but I just want to hold your hand in this. I've actively invited this awakening into my life, and I am finding it difficult some days to maintain my vibration, to maintain a positive demeanour. So let us get rid of that feeling of being peeved or pissed off, however you want to say it. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release the feeling of being peeved. Can I double check and make sure that the Divine Feminine Collective does not have a blockage in relation to being peeved? No, you are absolutely fine. So hopefully some of you or all of you will find some relief in your anxiety, feelings of despair, worry, resentment, and feeling peeved. Right, let's move it over to the next column, which is B. So in B1 we've got a blockage in vulnerability. I'll talk from my personal experience, then I'll feel what the collective is pulling in. I do have a bit of a blockage in feeling vulnerable. There are so many people that aren't awakened. So I did try dating. I'm not sure I should really open up about that, but I did try dating. I didn't actually meet anyone. I spoke to them over text message and video calls, and I never actually met anyone. But I've become quite vulnerable quite quickly. Or this time I didn't become very vulnerable, actually. So there might be a blockage there within me as well as part of the collective. But I know I'm clear because I did do my blockage yesterday. It's hard to be vulnerable in this world because not everybody will match that vulnerable energy. But as a divine feminine, that's something that we bring to the table, our vulnerability, and the fact that we're vulnerable allows other people to do that. So, we are soft, amazing, emotional, beautiful creatures that have such amazing capacity within us, especially if you're on this awakening journey and you're on this journey towards unconditional love, which just goes against every ego principle, and it goes against you being vulnerable. But that's one of our greatest assets, and something that we should never really lose. But I do understand, because I am less vulnerable towards my counterparts than I was at the beginning, because I opened up quite a lot and I never got a response. So, in the programming, no answer is an answer, but we know within 5D there is a lot more that's not being said, and I know that and I feel that, which is why a lot of the 3D people think I'm completely crazy, but it makes sense within my journey. I can't explain it properly, but hopefully someone out there will resonate with that. So yeah, I do understand it's hard to be vulnerable to others. It's hard to open up about this journey. Sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable to your counterpart. And sometimes you just feel like, I know that I have done a lot of work on opening my heart chakra. I got a bit soppy the other day, sent a lot of my friends messages loaded with love. And I'm really pleased I did, because I caught a few friends in bad periods. And if I hadn't been opening my heart chakra so much, but also having your heart chakra open so much also does leave you vulnerable to being taken advantage of, and also vulnerable to lower vibrational energies taking advantage of you if they can mirror you. I've just recently had a very interesting experience with a narcissist, but they posed kind of like an empath at first, but they did give me cues within. So it's given me a greater understanding, whereas it might have taken me years before. It took me weeks. So I'm very impressed with myself. But also we were both giving at the same level, but the moment the energy wasn't being given at the same level, I noticed, I stopped, I paused, I reviewed, and I was like, oh wow, my intuition was right. So let's get rid of any issues of vulnerability, because don't stop yourself from being vulnerable. Don't stop yourself from shining your light just because others around you won't. 444 again. Right, let us, obviously I do them in little 10-minute sections, or less if I know I'm going through it. So let's release vulnerability for the Divine Feminine Collective. Let's double check, is there any blockages for the Divine Feminine Collective in relation to vulnerability? So I hope from today forth we're all able to be that little bit more vulnerable, and don't worry about being vulnerable with other people. Be vulnerable with yourself. I've just started doing, I can't remember what I call it, my Tuesday day of self-care or something, or the day I take care of myself. I can't remember it. It was very catchy when I first thought of it, but it's not. So now I've set aside Tuesdays as my day, just my day to do whatever I want. I'm not doing work stuff. I'm not doing my little side hobbies. I'm not even thinking about healing to do with my twin flame. I'm just doing stuff for me. If there's a book I want to read, a painting I want to paint, a quilt I want to sew, if I want an early night, if I want to put a foot pack on, Tuesday's my night to do it. And I'm not giving that night up for anyone now. That came through at 555, so that's hopefully 555 is a sign of change. So I hope that's a good change for me. Because one thing I've noticed about myself is I'm very giving. If someone wants me to do it, I'll arrange my time around them, and they may forget to let me know that they're no longer available. And there are other things that I could be doing, but it's my giving nature in wanting to give. So, right, let's move on. So, grief. I've been feeling this a lot over the past week or two, and I might have said earlier on in the video that I have struggled with some stronger emotions, which is, and obviously my guides are giving me, and the divine are giving me a little, or source energy had given me a bit of a break from doing these until I was in a stronger position. I just had to get through some bits and pieces. Multitasked completely and procrastinated throughout, but also I know I'm at a stronger position even than I was 24 hours ago. So grief. But the grief I've been feeling is, and I hope it resonates with someone, because I said it to somebody and they just didn't understand it and they got it in completely the wrong context. There's a grief, I think, when you go through a spiritual awakening, that you lived your life incorrectly for so long, but also at the same time, if you hadn't lived your life incorrectly, you wouldn't have had all those lessons to culminate in that final understanding, which is the final understanding, which was the straw that broke the camel's back. But also there's a grief that the life that you once planned for yourself and were really at one point quite happy with is just no longer available to you, because through this spiritual awakening you've managed to switch timelines and put yourself into a higher timeline for yourself, or a timeline that seems better for you at this point in time, or for your spiritual awakening, because you've vibrationally vibrated yourself up this ladder that I keep talking about. There's a grief for the lost time between you and your counterpart if you're in a separation phase. There's a grief for the misunderstandings. There's a grief that you can't just feel that love that you felt in the 5D within the 3D. There's a grief for, lost friendships because you've just vibrated out of each other's sphere. There's a grief for a lot of things throughout this journey, and I felt it quite hard. So I said to her, I'm grieving the life that I thought I was going to have, but also I'm grieving the fact that it was a life that I should never have had. And they were like, oh, well, I lived my life, so I'm quite happy with the life that I lived. No, I lived my life as well. But what I'm saying is, until you go through an awakening, you don't understand how much it really changes everything that was previously programmed within your mind. Like, I would have happily stayed in a really unhappy relationship just to keep a family together. I did everything within my power to keep the family together, but also at the same time, there's nothing I can do unless the other person is willing to meet us both ways. I may have made it harder for them by breaking up and telling them to go and focus on themselves, but we are still in a very conscious relationship with one another, spiritually talking and making sure that it goes. And it's the grief for losing people that you once saw as, I still love my ex. He's my best friend. He understands me in ways that many other people don't. And to lose that, because, to lose it, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of loss. So let's release that for us, shall we? Let's release it. So for the Divine Feminine Collective, we would like to release grief. Let's double check, is there any blockages in relation to grief? So I'm at box B3 at the moment, if I didn't mention. So we're going to go to self-abuse and we're going to go to stubbornness. Also, do look at the body parts if you have any issues at the moment, if you're resonating with these particular set of emotions and you notice that you're having issues in those particular body parts. That's where the blockage is the emotion. If you want to look at it, there's Dr. Bradley Nelson, I think, has done a book and a program on it. Really recommend. That's how I got all of my information. Self-abuse. So talk about my personal journey. I've lost my appetite, and the thought of food is making me a bit nauseous, to be fair, and I didn't really eat very well for a couple of weeks, months really. To be honest, I haven't really eaten well since March, maybe before then. So the self-abuse could be, although saying that, I've been hungry the past 5 days, probably why I've kind of snapped back into it. And I haven't stopped eating. So self-abuse could be not looking after yourself correctly by giving yourself the correct energy levels. Not giving yourself the correct emotional support, not giving yourself that. That's like at the lower end of the scale. But then there could be self-abuse with, over caffeinating yourself, over dating, further self-abuse over drinking, further self-abuse over smoking, smoking to forget things, self-abuse by using chemicals to forget the situation you're in. Yeah, so I'm not saying that's going to resonate with everyone, but if you feel like you aren't taking good enough care of yourself and you're abusing yourself in any way, then this might be a good time for us to have a look at it. And I will release any blockages in relation to that, and hopefully it will either make it clearer for you to see where you may be causing yourself self-abuse, or maybe you already know and this unblocking can make it easier for you to quit whatever behaviour, substance, or whatever it is that you use for self-abuse. So the Divine Feminine Collective, I would like to release any issues in relation to self-abuse. Stubbornness. I'm laughing here because I know that I'm not particularly a stubborn person, but I have become quite stubborn within this process, because if you're not going to give me your energy, I'm just going to stop giving it. I will still give it when it's asked, but I'm not going to give it when it's not asked. And I've been quite stubborn in that, and I might have probably caused issues in my connection and other connections, and so stubbornness. I got a little collective feeling then. It was more a stubbornness in relation to seeing things in the right way, or a stubbornness in relation to wanting others to look after us as opposed to us looking after ourselves. So I don't know if that resonates with anyone. It's not something I've been picking up. In fact, I think I'm a little bit bored of the self looking after. But yeah, let's release that. So any issues of stubbornness for the Divine Feminine Collective. And I get it. Do you know what? We spend so long looking after other people, and when you become that kind of rock for people, people forget about you, don't they? So I get that little collective thing that popped through a moment ago. So let's double check. Is there any blockages in relation to stubbornness? No, there isn't. Right, we've got final two. So we're down to shame and shock. So you've got blockage in relation to shame. This has just been channeled. I feel like a couple or a percentage of us may have considered moving on recently. And maybe we got ourselves into some situations that we both enjoyed, but now feel shameful of, or maybe there was something that we did something that we felt was a bit shameful, or maybe we pushed something away and we felt shameful. But shame is, everything's a lesson at the end of the day. So let's get rid of shame. That's a low vibrating energy, and we'll get rid of shame. Shock. Sorry, let's double check if we got rid of shame. Yes, we did. Shock. Last one. Shock. The shock of this journey. It's a bit of a shocker, isn't it? It really is a bit of a shocker. So let's get rid of shock. It's been a long, long reading, this one. And I hope that some of this resonated and some of you feel a release. So the reason that we unblock emotions is because if you have a blockage in an emotion, you will generally respond from the age at which that emotion was blocked. So say, let's pick one of them. So anxiety, say your anxiety was triggered when you were 17, your counterparts, because you're generally a mirror of one another, was triggered when he was 14. You're both going to be responding when you get into an anxious moment at those age points. So yes, whilst it is a collective reading and healing, I hope it does reach you individually. But if you want to do it yourself, there is a video, I think it's purple background, which teaches you all about how to do this for yourself. It's a very empowering tool, and it's a tool that makes you realise how important you are to yourself, and you are the one that you are waiting for, because you can do this. You don't need to be a healer. You don't need to be anything like that. If you are having issues, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in that video. But if you do have any issues in relation to your muscle memory, being able to find the truth or the false, this is why there's the great sweetener scandal. The sweeteners actually cause damage in those muscles. So if you could have a little look at your sweetener intake and come back and try again. But thank you for listening to this divine feminine emotional code clearing on Wednesday the 4th of October. Let me just double check. Am I allowed to do the Dolores Cannon's Waves of Volunteers? Yes, I will be doing that. And I will also follow up with the Divine Masculine healing as well. And it'll be very interesting to see if you have the same, similar or different emotional blocks within you. So thank you if you managed to get to this point, and I wish each and every one of you a wonderful end to your day and a wonderful end to your week. And take care. Thank you.